Every team at this World Cup has prepared for Mbappé, for Bellingham and Yamal and the names that have dominated back pages for the last 3 years. Nobody is prepared enough for Raphinha. That is a mistake they are going to pay for. Champions League, October 2024. Barcelona versus Bayern Munich at the Camp Nou. Raphinha gets the ball, cuts inside and scores. Then scores again. Then scores a third. A hat-trick against one of the most defensively organised clubs in Europe. Player of the match. Barcelona win 4-1. That game was not an outlier. It was confirmation. 7 months later, in the semi-final second leg against Inter Milan, Barcelona needed a goal with the clock running out. Raphinha delivered it in the 87th minute, putting Barcelona ahead in the tie for the first time. It wasn't enough on the night, but that moment, a player stepping forward when everything is on the line, in a stadium designed to intimidate against a defence built to suffocate, told you everything you need to know about what Raphinha has become. By the end of the 2024-25 season, he had scored 34 goals and created 22 assists across 57 matches for Barcelona, winning La Liga, the Copa del Rey and the Supercopa de España, a domestic treble. In the Champions League alone, he recorded 22 goal involvements, 13 goals and 9 assists, equaling Cristiano Ronaldo's all-time record for goal contributions in a single Champions League campaign. He is 29 years old. Peak age for a footballer, and he is absolutely, terrifyingly at his peak. And here is the detail that matters most for everything that follows. Before that season started, Barcelona were ready to sell him. Al Hilal offered 90 million euros. The sporting director told his agent to find another club. Hansi Flick decided to keep him, handed him the captaincy, changed his position, and Raphinha responded by having one of the greatest individual seasons European football has seen in a decade. That is not a player riding good form. That is a player who had something to prove and proved it at the highest possible level. That hunger does not disappear when the World Cup starts. It travels with him. The thing about Raphinha that makes him genuinely difficult to prepare for is that he doesn't have a pattern. Modern defending is essentially a library of answers. Fast but one-footed, force him inside. Likes to cross, deny the byline. Strong in behind, hold a higher line. Coaches have spent decades cataloguing every type of attacker and building responses to each one. Raphinha doesn't fit the catalogue. He drifts inside and shoots. He stays wide and crosses. He drops deep to receive and then immediately drives into the space he just created. His pressing collapses build up. His movement off the ball pulls defensive lines apart for Vinicius on the other side. He wins fouls in dangerous areas. He takes the set pieces. He scores from them too. Dribble completion top 3 in Europe in 2025. Defensive contribution top 5 among forwards in the world. He is a creator and a finisher, a wide player and a central threat, a superstar who does the pressing work of a journeyman. The most dangerous version of any player is one who has elite quality in one area but is good enough everywhere else that you can't simply overload the weakness. Raphinha doesn't have a weakness worth overloading anymore. His weaker foot improved dramatically in 2024. His aerial game is underrated for a player of his height. His decision-making in the final third, which was occasionally the thing that held him back in earlier seasons, has become one of his greatest assets. No single defensive system answers all of those questions at once, which means before a ball is kicked, every team facing Brazil is already a step behind. Brazil in 2014 collapsed under the weight of their own expectation. 7-1 on home soil, a number that stopped meaning anything as a scoreline and started meaning everything as a symbol. An entire generation of Brazilian football infected by that night. Every squad since carrying it forward, whether they wanted to or not. Brazil in 2022 had talent without identity. A penalty, shootout, exit. Neymar walking off in the quarter-final and a decade of promise still unredeemed. There were players in that squad who were exceptional, but exceptional players without a system, without clarity about who they are when the game goes against them, are just a collection of individuals wearing the same shirt. Tournament football exposes that quickly. This squad is different in a way that goes beyond personnel. They know what they are. The tactical identity under their current setup is clearer than anything Brazil have had since the early 2000s. High press, positional flexibility in midfield, pace and directness in attack, and a defensive structure built around aggressive recovery rather than passive containment. They have a system that functions without individual brilliance. So when individual brilliance lands on top of it, the result becomes something close to unstoppable. Disciplined enough to grind through the hard games, explosive enough to dismantle anyone on a good night. That combination The ability to win ugly and win beautifully is what separates tournament winners from tournament contenders. This is not a Brazil team held together by individual genius. This is a Brazil team built on a genuine foundation. And that makes everything Raphinha does on top of it exponentially more dangerous. The real reason the 2026 World Cup has a Raphinha problem has nothing to do with statistics. It's what he does to this Brazil team when the moment gets heavy. He is the player who bounced through lower leagues in Portugal and France, through cold Tuesday nights in the English Championship, through a difficult first season at Barcelona when the narrative around him had already been written and filed. Every step of his career, someone had a reason why he wasn't quite good enough for the next level. Too inconsistent, not clinical enough. A good Premier League player, not a Champions League one. A Champions League player, not a Ballon d'Or contender. He answered every single one, louder each time than the doubt that preceded it. That kind of career history does something to a player that talent alone cannot replicate. It creates a specific relationship with pressure, not the absence of nerves, but the absolute certainty that nerves won't change the outcome. Raphinha has been in the moment where everything is on the line too many times at too many different levels to be destabilized by it now. When Brazil need a result in a quarterfinal and the game is tight and the crowd is hostile, the players around Raphinha will look at him and find something that cannot be faked. Consistency under pressure is the rarest quality in football. Money can buy technique. Development academies can install tactical understanding. You cannot manufacture the look on a player's face in the 85th minute of a World Cup knockout game when his team needs a goal. That cannot be coached into a squad. Either you have someone like that or you don't. Brazil has one, and he happens to also be the most informed player on the planet. 2018, a teenager from Bondy named Mbappé arrived and the world wasn't ready. France had veterans. The tournament was supposed to belong to the established names. Instead, it belonged to a 19-year-old who played like time didn't apply to him. By the time the rest of the world caught up to how good he was, the trophy was already on its way to Paris. 2022, everyone knew it might be Messi's last World Cup. Nobody was ready for what that looked like when the fear of the future finally left him. When a player has nothing left to chase except the one thing, something is released that isn't available any other way. He was the best player at that tournament by a distance, and even that description doesn't fully capture what those 6 weeks look like. Every World Cup has a player whose impact arrives before the consensus does. There is always a gap between the moment someone becomes the most important player at the tournament and the moment the world agrees on it. The best teams find that player early and build around them. The teams that go home in the quarterfinals find out too late. 2026. The conversation is Mbappe's redemption arc, Bellingham's prime, Yamal's emergence, Ronaldo's final chapter, all of it real, all of it worth watching. Raphinha is somewhere underneath all of that noise, not for long. The group stage will be the last time anyone underestimates him. By the second round, the tactical briefings will be changing. By the quarterfinals, opposing managers will be building their entire defensive structure around one question. How do we stop Raphinha from getting the ball in space in the final third? The answer, historically, has been that you can slow him down by committing 2 players to him at all times. But committing 2 players to Raphinha means somewhere on that pitch, Vinicius is free. And a free Vinicius Jr. at a World Cup is the closest thing football has to a guaranteed goal. There is no clean solution. Every defense has to pick its poison. The teams that go deepest against Brazil will be the ones who accept that they cannot stop everything and instead focus on making Brazil work hardest for the things that hurt them most. High defensive line to shorten the space Raphinha receives in. Narrow block to force play wide. Fullbacks disciplined enough to not get drawn inside by Raphinha's movement, but athletic enough to handle Vinicius one-on-one if he stays out wide. It is a possible game plan. It requires near-perfect execution for 90 minutes across several consecutive games. Against this attack, with this squad depth, 1 lapse is enough. The moment Brazil step onto that pitch and Raphinha gets the ball in space and turns, that is when every manager watching from a hotel room, every analyst with their laptop, every commentator who spent the week talking about someone else is going to have the same thought at the same time. We underestimated this. Porto Alegre to the World Cup. No smooth road, no clean pathway, every hard version of every step. A career that didn't build toward this moment so much as it carved through obstacles to reach it. The difference matters because it means when the obstacles arrive in July, and at a World Cup they always arrive, Raphinha has already seen harder. He is here now. Brazil are here now. Built properly, Finally, the system and the talent aligned in the same direction at the same time, the way Brazil teams for the last 20 years have promised and failed to deliver. And the World Cup is not ready for what that combination looks like when the stakes are highest. Other teams will arrive in the United States with their own reasons to believe, their own histories, their own moments, their own players capable of deciding a tournament. This is not a prediction that Brazil win it. Football doesn't work that way. Anything can happen across 7 games at a World Cup, and usually does. But of all the problems heading into the summer of 2026, there is one that doesn't have a clean answer in any coaching manual, on any tactical whiteboard, in any pre-tournament preparation session. You cannot scheme around it. You cannot press through it. You can only survive it. Most teams won't. Which team do you think comes closest to solving this Brazil side? Drop it in the comments. If you're backing the Seleção this summer, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This tournament is going to move fast.